Hello, Italian readers. My name is Rumena Bužarovska, and I'm a writer from Macedonia, from Skopje, the capital, actually now North Macedonia. And just like you, I cannot leave the house, and you've given me a great excuse to talk about my book and also put on some lipstick. So, the book that was published in Italian, my husband, Mio marito. I can tell you something about it very briefly to maybe get you interested in reading it. Please read it. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. Why do I say that? Well, it's a book of short stories. I really, really like short stories, and that's the reason that I write them. And even though people say that the short story form is not that important as the novel, and they keep asking me when I'm going to write a novel. I just really enjoy short stories, and I've always enjoyed them. I find that they're really small episodes of everyday life that give us a lot of insight into how people are feeling and what people are thinking. And for me, they're always a little bit like unfinished episodes, and I like to leave them at that. Just little episodes that talk to us about really important things. So, as a huge reader of short stories, I also wanted to write them. I also really like writing in the first person because the first person is very subjective. And when you have a subjective narrator, it means that you, as a reader, have a lot more work to do. It means that you also have to figure out what the narrator was actually thinking, because frequently we say things that we don't mean, but the way in which we say them and where we say them, obviously how we say them, actually tells us a lot about how we feel and why we're saying some things. So because of that, I decided to write a book because of that, and of course because of other things, which is my kind of obsession with how women are treated in very patriarchal societies such as ours. I decided to write a book called My Husband, which is basically 11 stories where each woman who is married seemingly talks about her husband, but actually talks about herself. So through her first person narration, we learn a lot about how she's feeling. It started off with the first short story called My Husband the Poet. And the reason I wrote this story and I did it in a fit of anger and annoyance, was when I was just reading so much crap in terms of poetry that was coming out of a lot of poets that I knew and a lot of poets that I didn't know, but a lot of local poets as well. And I think it has to do also with how people share their poetry on social media, even though it's pretty bad. And I was just inspired by how brazen, these people are to say, the reason why my poetry is good is because of the fact that I am a poet and I like to create. And this trope of this kind of poet creator, this man creator, is very important in my short stories, and I like to make fun of it. But yeah, I used to work at a poetry festival when I was much younger, and I was volunteering there. And I saw a lot of bad poets, and my inspiration was the stuff that I saw. So in kind of this fit of anger, I imagined what it would have been like if I was, say, married to a poet like that, and I wrote from a perspective of a married woman. And then I further continued by the idea that mostly in our culture, and generally in Western culture and in other cultures as well, the woman is not identified by what she does, rather who she's married to. The man is identified by his profession, whereas the woman is identified by her family. So I was thinking that these stories would be named, let's say, My Husband the Poet, My Husband the Gynecologist, My Husband the Ambassador. Then I thought that would be kind of simple, so I took that out of the titles of the short stories, but most of the short stories do deal with these men who have various professions and the women who sort of exist in this patriarchal society. And I like to also make fun of the society itself, but also I'm kind of ironic towards the women as well, which means that the stories are kind of funny. Half of them are funny and half of them are not. So I like this mix of the comic and the tragic. I think the funny stories are the shorter ones, like the one about the gynecologist who likes to, who thinks that he's a painter, or the poet. There's one about this, a story that a friend of mine once told me about a guy who uh, allegedly was a very nice husband because he, once he stopped sexually performing, he decided to allow his wife to have sexual intercourse with someone else, but he actually took her to this man's place and basically picked the man for her. And the way that the story was told to me was that, oh, he was a real gentleman. So yeah, that's also one of the stories about the so-called gentleman. Yeah, so this is the cover of the 5th edition in Macedonia is this. Now I'm really happy with the this cover. Yeah, by a friend of mine. It did create a little bit of controversy. This this toilet seat with this, which is actually, I don't know if you can see this. It's actually olive oil. My friend did not. It's not real urine, but yeah, it did create a little bit of controversy with readers. They were a little bit disgusted, some of them, but actually, I think this cover really does its job because it does, I think, illustrate the idea of the stories that they're comic and they're tragic, and some of them are a little. There's, for instance, there's a lot of throwing up in one story, so they're not always very tasteful, let's say, and I like that. I like the fact that it's provocative. Also, something that happens a lot with my book is that it's written in the first person, and a lot of people think that this is me, and that this is what I think. A lot of the first person narration is intentionally cliches, but people mistake that for something that is supposed to be beautiful. That was not my intention, but I actually like that some people think that. And yeah, there's a lot of people who think that this is chick lit, and that's fine with me because it gets a lot of people to read the book. So anyway, it's an easy read. It's not very long. It's stories. You can read a couple and then leave the book alone. That's why one of the reasons I like short stories is that it's, it fits conveniently with my time. Essays also, I love essays because of that. So I really hope that you enjoyed the book during these dark times that we're all experiencing. I'm really sorry that you guys are going through what you are going through, but I am pretty sure that it will all be over soon, and all of us will be able to give each other a huge hug and kiss. And for now, I'm only sending you virtual kisses. Bye bye.